Okay. Name of narrator Richard Stoffer. Name of interviewer Kaneisha Harris Robinson. Date, time, and location Monday, March 4th, 12:30 p.m. Ruth Patrick Science Education Center. Okay. Hello, Richard.
Hi.
Okay. So when and where were you born?
I was originally born in Fullerton, California, and that was in June 22nd, 1973.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I grew up 3 years later in several different places in Illinois. The first place was Hayworth, Illinois, small little, maybe 300 people town,
Okay.
and did that for 4 years. Then we moved into the major town that was close by, which is Decatur, Illinois.
Oh, okay. So, okay, you kind of mentioned the environment there.
Mhm.
So, what age did you move from California to Illinois?
When I was 3.
3. Okay.
3 years old, we moved out of California to Illinois.
All right. And what was the cause of that move?
Job opportunity. My dad moved to Illinois to pursue trucking. He was already a truck driver at the time, but there was a company there that was hiring.
Okay. And so, what kind of activities were you involved in during high school?
Ooh, high school. Let's see. There was basketball, football. My high school time was spent with a graduating class of 23. So
Oh.
it was another small community that we moved out of Decatur into another small community.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that and Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
I was a role-playing nerd, so.
So you like role playing?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So what is exactly Dungeons and Dragons?
It's fantasy role-playing. You have a book with stats and stuff, and a lot of it's done in your imagination. You just have a character. It's kind of like what Final Fantasy or any of those RPGs, computer games, software games. It's the first start of those.
Okay. So are you still like interested in the?
I'm interested in gaming. I do it quite often. I really haven't played D&D for a good 4 years since I've been out of the military, so
Okay.
it's hard to find people that really like it.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. Can you tell us about your family?
let's see. I am the middle child of 3 boys above me, 1 boy below me, and 2 girls below me. So,
Yeah.
3 above, 3 below. I'm the exact dead center. So, the 3 older brothers were 1 year apart. Then there was a 7-year gap where nobody was born. Then I came around. So, I got to be the test guinea pig for whether or not we could do stuff in the house.
Yeah, so
And also, I protected the younger ones. So,
okay. So were you all close?
oh yeah, very much.
That's interesting. Okay. Did you go to college or work after graduation?
Negative. I went straight into the military after graduation.
Okay, so you're about 18.
Well, I was held back a year, so I was 19 going in.
19.
So,
Okay. Okay, and why did you decide to enlist in the Navy? Correct.
yes, that is correct.
Mhm.
The reason I went to the Navy simply because my father was in the Navy, my grandfather had been in the Navy, and I, didn't feel like college was the way to go for me, so I decided to go to the military and let them pay for college.
Okay.
So,
Were you nervous about this new journey in your life?
negative.
No.
I've never really been nervous about too much in my life,
Mhm.
so I'm a ginger. We don't really get nervous. So.
Kind of just let things flow.
Yeah, it happens.
Okay, what was the reaction of your family and your friends when you decided to join?
Everybody was good to go with it. They were, hey, go do your thing.
Mhm.
So my initial sign up was as a reservist, so that's what I did for my first 7 years.
Oh, reserve. Okay.
Mhm.
So when and where were you inducted?
That would be St. Louis, Missouri. That was, let's see, would have been May 2nd of 94.
Okay. Where did you complete basic training at?
Where everybody does in the Navy, it's Great Lakes, Illinois, or as we call it, Great Mistakes. So,
Great mistakes. Why that
Mhm.
name?
because it's close to lakes and mistakes, and also everybody that passes through there, it's a mistake if you go into the Navy, is the thought.
Okay.
So,
Okay. How would you describe the boot camp bit?
let's see. Boot camp was fun. It was quite challenging just for the simple fact that I had been an athletic kid, but not nearly that athletic.
Mhm.
I was also the current height I am and 155 pounds, so I didn't have much muscle or anything when I initially went in.
Okay.
So,
What was your drill instructor like?
that was Ian Eichstead. He was an interesting fellow. He really didn't push us a lot, physical wise. The other instructors did that. He was more, you need to learn what you need to learn to get through boot camp and to be a proper Navy person. So,
Okay. That's understandable. What was your hardest part of boot camp?
The physical training.
Physical training.
Yeah, simply because I just didn't have the muscle at that point. I was a lanky kid, so just, completing the push-ups and everything just killed me.
Kind of tough.
Yep.
So, do you think that boot camp changed you?
It showed me some stuff, but I don't really think it changed me. I mean, it showed me what I needed to adjust in my personality to fit, but the overall of who I am really hasn't changed.
Okay.
So.
How would you describe your personality back then?
It was very carefree, very do whatever. When I was growing up, I'd gone through 2 different body casts. I've broken just about every bone in my body twice, so you learn to just kind of deal and relax. And as a ginger, you're usually hot-headed, so I had to be patient because I was in body casts. So
where did most of those injuries come from?
From my brothers.
From your brothers?
Can we jump off the roof with a sheet and float down like a parachute? I don't know. Grab Rick. Kick me off the roof.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yep.
Okay. Where did you go from boot camp? Like, did you have any other training?
Yes. After that, I went to Fleet Mine Warfare Training Center in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where I got my what they call A school or advanced training. I did that for, I think it was a 3-month stint. That was fun. There was a lot of classified information about depths, sizes, how much of this or that we have in each, the electronics portions of mines. So it was a good time. Then I came back to Decatur and hung out and was a reservist.
Okay.
So.
All right. So where were you stationed when you left boot camp?
Back to Decatur as a reservist. That's where I hung out for the 7 years, and then I re-upped after 9/11 happened in 2002. So.
Okay. What kind of activities were you and your unit involved in?
Really, other than the normal weekend a month, every month, there really wasn't much that we did. I went down to Charleston every once in a while and helped with maintenance of mines just to keep that portion of my knowledge up. But the reserve portion really wasn't that big of a deal. There was a lot more once we got into 2002. So.
What was your specific job?
When I was in the reserve side, it was mineman. I was maintaining and performing electronic checks, spray painting. Oh yeah. We painted the mines. We stripped them, sandblasted them down, just made sure they were good to go. So if they had to go out into whatever, they were ready to go. That was the majority of my job, was a maintenance man on those.
Okay.
So that was my initial job. My later job was a corpsman or a combat medic. I got assigned to a Marine unit. That was 2002 and on. So.
Okay. So what was it like being a corpsman?
Corpsman was a very, very interesting prospect. I didn't understand at the time that the Marines don't have their own medical, so they borrow the Navy's. As a new guy coming in, I was thinking, oh cool, I get to do medical stuff. I'll be in a clinic, I'll hang out, shouldn't be that big of a deal. And then when I graduated boot camp, or graduated the A school for corpsman, it was, guess what, you're going to go with the Marines. I'm not a Marine. Well, you're going to have to learn to do it, Doc. And I got shoved out there. So at the time I was 32 and running around with 18, 19-year-old muscled up kids who I couldn't keep up with to save my life. So, trying to learn that aspect of things. The corpsman side was definitely a lot more challenging. It required a lot more physical challenge than the mineman did earlier in my career.
So exactly what was the job of the corpsman? I know you said running around.
My whole purpose was to be the doctor for them. The vast majority of Marines couldn't tell you what the name of their actual doctor in their unit is. They can tell you what the corpsman's name is, where he's from, all that stuff, because we spend every day with them. It's a very unique relationship with a corpsman with the Marines, because you get about 25, 30 guys that you learn everything about them, what candy they like. I mean, I knew who liked what at what point during the day, who I should go talk to because they were feeling depressed. you learn everything about the Marines to the point that you're pretty much, it's beyond the medical portion. You're dealing with a lot of psychological stuff with them, you know, girlfriends, what they did with their parents, what they're having to deal with this and that while you're in the middle of combat, or just after something went down, you're dealing with those guys before you're even dealing with the stuff you've had to deal with through the day. So it's a very unique relationship and experience. So
Did it deal with a lot of wounds, taking care of wounds?
there were quite a few. Most of them were, you know, the normal stuff in the field. You roll your ankle. Very few of them were actually dealing with full-fledged bullet holes or anything like that. Those weren't nearly as prevalent, at least on my side. I've got friends who can tell me up and down about, you know, putting tourniquets on people's amputated legs that have been blown off, and dealing with a sucking chest wound because he has 4 or 5 holes in his chest. It just, you know, mine weren't nearly that bad. Theirs were, and I've heard their stories. So, you know, most of mine were, you know, the typical stuff: rolled ankle, broken leg, stuff like that. So.
Okay. Did you do this job at all of your bases that you went to?
Yes, I was at Camp Lejeune. That was my only station as a corpsman. Once I got to the Marine side, usually when you get to Lejeune, you're stuck there, and I got stuck there for 10 years.
10?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it there?
It was a good time. I really liked it. Just simply because they kept me physically fit, because you have to be to run around with them. So as I got into my older age, I really didn't trail off too much physical-wise, so that's good for me. Yeah.
Okay. So when did you leave the Navy?
I left the Navy July 19th of 2016.
2016, so that's very recent.
Mm-hmm.
And you're retired, right?
Technically, no.
No.
No. I fell short of the retirement time. I'm attempting to get my partial retirement, but it's having to go through hoops to get it done.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that we left out of your Navy service that you would like to explain or tell?
Yeah, not really. I mean, mineman over to corpsman, did corpsman the rest of the time. Corpsman's a fun job. No, we pretty much covered it.
Okay.
If there's anything else you need to...
We'll just move to the next section.
Okay, cool.
Okay. What did you do after leaving the Navy?
After I left the Navy, me and the wife had a pact. Once I was out, I was to spend 1 year, no school, no interactions with anything, simply be a couch bum.
Really?
Because, yeah, well, I deployed I deployed twice. I had multiple training sessions where I was gone for 4 months at a shot. Yeah, so I was constantly up and gone, constantly moving. So the deal was, once I got out, I was going to spend exactly 1 year, not do anything. Okay. Absolutely nothing. I didn't go on runs, didn't exercise at all, pretty much didn't talk to anybody, just 1 year, solid. I became a complete bum. Sat and watched movies, played video games, she worked, and that was our deal. So once the year was up, I started to apply for schools and got on here.
So how did that 1 year being off, not doing anything, how did that?
Honestly, I think that was the best thing for me, and if I could, I would go and try to get the military to implement it. It allows for the transition a lot better. They try to do something in the military, it's called TAPS, where you learn all the stuff you're going to need when you get out of the military. And it's supposed to help you transition. But personally, I think it's too short. It's only a month. So I honestly think the 1 year difference helped me in the fact that I could sit around and I could go where I wanted and kind of observe things. And it's a completely different world when you're in the military. I mean, completely different. You're isolated to the point that you're at your base. Maybe you go out into town every once in a while and you get things, but the vast majority of your job is to be on base all day, every day, go do what you need to do, and then come back. And usually by the time you're home, it's 5, 6 o'clock at night. I'm not going out. I'm not going to go see a movie. I'll save that for the weekend. And lucky if I go out on the weekend either. We used to just sit around and do whatever we could to watch TV or flip channels or anything. But the transition time, it also, I started to read more news, and I started to actually see all the stuff that I was missing and understand, it's, you kind of get isolated in the military from the world because you're focused on what you need to do. So I think it helped.
Okay, so you agree that your year transition was helping you to transition back into being a regular civilian?
Yes,
okay.
Because there's a lot of things that you see in the military that you react to instantly. Mm-hmm. Somebody wearing a hat indoors. This would be crazy. I would be chewing somebody out if I saw a hat indoors. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where it is. But that initial time allowed me to, okay, I see somebody, I'm not going to react to it. Somebody not wearing their cover in a hospital. Mm-hmm. Still take my cover off in hospitals, but it just, you can't run up to somebody and say, hey, take that off, mm-hmm. because it's civilian. They're not going to listen. So it allows you to relax yourself and kind of get out of those habits that you formed while in the military, at least for me.
Do you have any friends that kind of struggled with transitioning back into?
I had a lot of friends. That's where I got the idea for the 1 year off, mm-hmm. was seeing the people that have been in for 6 years and they had been deployed 4 or 5 times, and then now they're out and they're trying to deal with going to school, and somebody says something and they correct them and start yelling at them. I had one friend get kicked out of school. Really? Because he supposedly harassed a female, but he was telling her, that she was wrong about something that they were talking about in history, and rather than him just calmly saying, no, look, you're wrong, he started yelling at her. And you can't do that in the civilian world. So it became a thing in my head, okay, I can't do that. I just can't. I got to get through this, and I got to get on with what I'm planning on doing in my future. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. So why did you decide to go to college after?
I need something. The military gave me all the medical I need, but from that medical, there is no transition instantly into civilian world of what I learned and what I did. There is no combat medic in civilian world. So I had to get something that was kind of close, and I have to have something to sustain me beyond where I'm at right now. So that's why I chose the athletic exercise science portion.
Okay. So why did you decide to enroll at USCA?
Believe it or not, kind of convenience. It was close by. It seemed like it was a pretty good school and offered the exercise fitness that I needed. I'm trying to get into coaching, so I figured that's a good aspect to start with and then transition from there.
And what is your major?
My major is exercise sports science, allied health. Specifically, I'm trying to get the certified athletic trainer, okay. Which almost every high school is eventually going to need. Personally, I'm trying to go to Australia, though. I'm not hanging around here. There's a really obscure sport that I'm trying to become a coach for. Okay. I'm in a championship in.
Okay. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So for most students, starting college is an adjustment. Was it an adjustment for you?
Yes, it is, and no. I do like the fact that this isn't USC Aiken compared to what I've seen as traditional colleges, where it's 100, 150 people in a lecture hall, and that's all, and the instructor barely knows who you are. Here it seems like it's more maybe 25, maybe 30 at the max. I mean, the biggest class I have right now is psychology, and that's because it's, so many people in the class at one time. So, but the vast majority of them, they're nice and small. It's more like the military in, you have your small little unit that you work in. You're not used to the big unit because that's not what everybody does. It's more focused towards the small. So I do like the fact that, you can get more individualized kind of care and teaching, which is helpful for me simply because the last time I was in any sort of school was '94. So I got a little bit of a gap in between my classes, other than the classes I took in the military.
Okay, so what is your expected graduate date?
That would be 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, if I stay on the track I can pick it up. So.
Okay. So do you think USC Aiken was a good place to be a student veteran?
Very much. For me, at least, it was simply because the classes are more like the military classes. Like I said, they're smaller. They're more oriented towards the individual than they are the mass teaching of people.
Okay.
So.
All right. Can you tell us about your present family?
Like my immediate family, or
Yes.
Okay, my immediate family is just me and my wife. We don't have kids. To use a term that I like to use a lot, we're not breeders. We've looked into we haven't looked into adoption or anything, simply because our life is so in transition. Even with the military, was in transition. So until we're able to establish ourselves, which probably won't happen at this point, we're never gonna really get kids. I have, like I said, the 6 other siblings attached for me, and each one of them have at least 5 kids. So I've got plenty of nieces and nephews to hang out with and talk to, and one of them's actually going into the Navy. I was talking with him over the weekend, trying to help him understand what he's going into. So, yeah, I've got plenty. I'm good. Me and the wife are good where we're at, and we like the way we're set up. So.
Okay, and what's your wife's name?
Amanda.
Amanda. How long have you all been married?
We've been married for 17 years.
17 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
When did you meet her in your Navy life?
I met her a year before going back in. At the time, I was still reserves, kind of hanging out, not really committed to anything. I was working as a manager at a Domino's Pizza on a campus, and I was gaming, and she was coming in. She was coming in to help the town set up. There used to be this thing called Vampire the Masquerade. It was a live-action role play where you pretend to be a vampire in modern-day society, kind of controlling the strings of... Think Underworld? Okay. Well, actually being the vampires and acting it out. You don't actually bite anybody or punch anybody or anything. There are rules to those mechanics. But it's more the acting portion of it. She came in from Indiana to help us set it up. I met her. That was pretty much it.
So has she actually lived with you when you were
Oh yeah,
stationed?
the entire time that I've been in this technical second time in, first time as active duty, second time in, she's been with me the whole time. So she understands everything ins and outs. She knows how all of it works, and she's pretty much of the same mind as me. It was a good time, but we're out. Time to move on.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully managing an Australian rules football team, or at least coaching some sort. I will be in Australia. That's not an issue. I could have gone down there at summer. So this December, I got 2 offers to coach positions, but I've got to have a degree personally, so I have something to fall back on if the coaching falls through.
So would it be just Australia or just any place that?
Australia is where it's played the majority of, and that's where they have a professional league. USA has 42 teams that play, but it's all amateur at this point and hasn't really taken off. But Australia is where the big game is. It's been played since 1863, so
what exactly is the game?
It's called Australian rules football. It is a healthy mix of soccer, rugby, and a prison riot. It's 18 guys aside on a cricket field. If you've never seen a cricket field, it's about 150 yards from end to end and about 75 wide. So it's a pretty big field. The average player runs about 9.5 miles in a game, so it requires a lot of endurance, a lot of strength. The only way you can score is by kicking it. So a lot of the players, 2 of the players that have left the league because of injuries, are now professional football punters in the NFL, and NFL's starting to look at the players coming out of there that aren't making it about putting them in because it requires such precision kicking. These guys are kicking from 50, 60 yards out and having to hit a space that's only 15 feet wide. So they're monsters in every aspect, and the game doesn't require a specific body build for any position. There are guys that are 5'1", all the way up to the biggest guy is an American right now that's down there. He's 6'11". So all body shapes and sizes. Females play it, males play it. They have professional league for both. It is, as far as I'm concerned, it's the greatest sport ever. I found it in 2010 when I broke my wrist, and yeah, it's my new passion.
So have you ever wanted to play, or do you just want to coach?
I would have loved to play if I had found it before going into the military. I would have gone down to Australia. Even in my less than muscular state, I would have gone down there and tried. It is a fascinating sport to watch. I can't. Once I get started on a rant, I go on it. The wife's already warned me, don't do a rant here about it. So, yeah, it's a completely different subject we could go into for hours.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap things up?
About the only thing I could think of was the military's not for everybody. So, if you're thinking about going into the military, probably talk with a bunch of people. It's really not for everybody. Like college is not for everybody or whatever. Just, it isn't. You got to make sure you're good to go and you're actually understand what's going on. But other than that, I'm fine.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Richard.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Yeah.